Hi everybody, today we're going to look at issue tracking, and we're going to focus on issue tracking, or we're going to have a focus on BCFier and look at that tool. But we're also going to look at just a native Autodesk tool, and then some other ones I'll mention them. This was brought up to me, the BCF tool, from, if I can switch to the next slide, there it goes. BIM Geek mentioned this to me. He has an awesome channel. I definitely recommend checking it out if you're interested in Grasshopper. He may do Dynamo videos, but computational design, AEC related stuff. Definitely check it out if you're interested in those kinds of things. And I would imagine if you watch my channel, you definitely are. So there's the link, and I'll put it in the description below. So be sure to check that out. So BCF Fear, and I'm just going to call it BCF, and we'll actually come back to these slides real quick. But the tool is an open source tool. Here it is on GitHub, and you'll find that link below as well. What we're going to do in this video is take a look at this tool. It's an issue tracking tool. It's just tracking issues. The interface is quite simple, just like any other tool that you would use for this. So it's pretty straightforward. I think we'll slide through reviewing it or just looking at the functionality, and then we'll look at some of the other tools that are out there. But this is an open source and free tool, so I think that's really powerful. The installs, as far as I know, there's installs for Revit and Navisworks, but being that it's open source, you could create installs or add-ins for a variety of other tools. I haven't looked into that. I've barely dug into the GitHub repo, but being that it's an open source tool, there's that ability which in some of these other tools that I'm going to show you don't have because they're not open source. So that's why the highlight, I wanted to focus primarily on the BCF tool, but after digging into some others, I figured we'll just call this issue tracking. The video will be issue tracking, and then we'll put a bigger focus on the BCF tool, but still, talk about some of the other ones. So let's go back. So we're not going to be covering this, unfortunately, BIM 360 issues. I think this is really powerful if you have this ability, if you are using BIM 360. This is my own computer with my own license of Revit and Navisworks. I don't have access to BIM 360, and I don't want to pay for it, so we won't be able to check that out. But if you are lucky enough to have BIM 360, there are some really cool functionality with the issue tracking, and then if you're using model coordinate, there's some cool stuff in there as well. But as you can see, there's an integrated tool in the Revit UI, and then there's some little nodes that are you highlighting in the 3D model where your issue is at. So you're not limited to just using markup tools. You can actually host stuff to the model and view things. And so what's cool with BIM 360 is you can do it from the model, but also jump out into BIM 360 and do stuff. And it's been a while since I've messed with that, but I think they were working on making that more integrated. I'm not I think issues are pretty integrated. It's the model coordinate, which is their clash detection tool, that is a bit that at the time that I checked wasn't integrating some of the points. But I could be wrong. That's been a while since I messed around with that. But BIM 360 issue is really powerful, especially if you're using BIM 360. Actually going out there and looking at that. If you have PMs using it, I think it's a really powerful tool. But it's not free, so there's that. BIM Collab, we're not going to cover this, but I wanted to mention some other options for this type of workflow issue tracking. So this is a tool that you can find if you search the Revit App Store. You can find BIM Collab, and it seems like a pretty slick tool with good reviews. BIM Sync, I've heard good things about this, so you can see that it's got a pretty nice integration with Revit, and Again, you can find that on the Autodesk App Store. So check that out. This one had good reviews. They look like good tools, and I heard good things about this one. So I just wanted to briefly mention those, just so that I can cover a variety of issue tracking tools, just to really make this well-rounded and not just have it focused on one tool. So let's jump into it. Well, actually, before we do, I want to mention two other things. So, BIM Geek, he reached out on the Discord server. So, if you want to be a part of those conversations and you want to talk with other folks that are interested in these types of things, check this out. It's a channel where just people can ask questions, and the idea is just a community of people where we can just talk with one another and help each other out. So check that out if you're interested. And then I almost forgot, but after we look at the BCF tool, I wanted to show you shared views, the Autodesk Viewer tool. It's not as cool as the issue tracking, but if you're not using BIM 360, this is a really awesome workflow, and it's free in the sense that if you have Revit, you don't have to pay for anything else. But it isn't open source, and far as I know, you can't export to like a BCF file format, which we haven't covered that, but there's a nice wiki link that I'll post in the description below. But that's essentially what the BCF name comes from. So we've got the BIM collaboration format. It's just a format, structured format for issue tracking. That's it. And so there are a variety of tools that will read the BCF format into their tool. And that's what's powerful about this. Just like IFC, the idea is that it's this standard format that's shared between different software. So I'll put this below if you want to read more about it. All right, so the BCF tool. I'm going to jump into my add-ins, and then over here we've got it BCF, and then we've got our 2.2.2 version. All right, so and I'm going to show you guys this tool real quick. It's pretty easy, but I will show you where to install this in a minute. So it'll be on the repo. Check that out if you just want to jump to that. But at the end of this preview or review, we'll take a look at the install or where to find it. All right, so this is actually pretty straightforward. It's just an issue tracking tool. There's a variety of buttons up here. We can create a new BCF report. We can save as. We can open up a BCF, and then we can merge into an existing one. This is actually pretty easy. I tested this out yesterday. That's pretty straightforward, and it worked fine. And then we have our settings file, and then help over here, our settings, not settings file. There's not much in here. I haven't messed with any of these. I've left everything pretty much as the default. I have yet to test this on like two people opening the exact same BCF file. I would imagine you would run into some trouble with that. It does force you like when you're done. So let's go ahead and create an issue. So this is the BCF report. You can see what the name is right there. And then if we go here at our issue, and then we can just call this my issue today. I'm not entirely sure what these drop downs are for. I imagined that they would be for like users, and I'm the same user using this, and maybe you can filter to a specific user and then a specific time. Because at first I was thinking like it would be the time or the date and time, but it's not. Nothing's showing up, and you can see I've got multiple times on there. Like if we jump over to this, it's the same thing. So, all right, so here's my issues today, and what we can do is add a description. So my first issue or something, and then I can add a view, which in this case what it does is it takes your active view. It just takes a screenshot of your active view. If we close that, zoom in, maybe there's an issue like right here, or actually let's jump out and look at a coordination issue. So here we've got a structural and HVAC issue. So we'll go ahead and click add view. You can see it there. And then there's just a few options. So down here we can include a comment. So this is a big issue. And then we can come up here and annotate. And then it's just your paint tool. So you get all the functionality that paint has. You can change it to some color that'll stand out, and then we can just circle this, close it, and then you can see it update there. And then when you add it, you can see it pop up right there. And then you can continue adding views. And so down here we can add comments, and then down here we can add general comments. Anytime you click this add comment button, it's just going to pop you down here. So there's our general comment, and then if I want to add another one, it'll just take me down here. Say I want to add another view, you can see there I can add multiple views, and then we can talk about those views. And then here, if so this would essentially be closing an issue, or closing the views in an issue. You can exit out of them or delete the view. Down here you can delete your comments. And then as for deleting your issue, so it depends on your workflow. So if you have an issue and you want to have a bunch of different images about a variety of coordination problems, then you can exit out that way. But I would say use these or create an issue for your separate coordination problem. So here is my first coordination issue between this structural element and this HVAC duct. And when I'm finished and everything's good, what we can do is delete that one issue, or we can keep that there and just track that it's being that it was resolved at some point. There's not a lot of functionality in here for like filtering, but we can search for issues. That's why I would say, like, while you're working through this, if you are using this tool, just to keep organized, it may make sense to delete your issues after you resolve them. But as for tracking, it may be worth, before doing so, to do a save as, just so you have that historic data, and then when you're ready and you've made changes or updates, you can delete your issues, just to keep this interface clean. With that said, though, there's a variety of ways that you can leverage this. Because you do a save as, you can see there I've added some issues. Now when I go to close this, it's going to prompt me to say, hey, you've modified, do you want to change? I can click yes, and then it's going to want me to write a new report. Now what I can do is overwrite the existing report, or I can just call this my new report 1. Maybe you add that date and time or your initials at the end of it, and that could be a way of tracking that data. Merging it is pretty straightforward. I haven't tried to do this where I duplicate, but let's see what happens if we merge it. So it looks like it knew better, and it's probably using some IDs in there. So let's go ahead and close this, and we will say no for this, and then we'll create a new one. So we'll do a new BCF, and then let's just fly around this model to a different spot and just take a random picture. So we'll open that back up. Alright, so new BCF. We'll add an issue. Actually, so we've already got one there. Oops, did it again. Alright, so We'll just call this. We'll add the view. Let's all right, so we've got a comment on our view, and then we've got a comment, oops. Then we've got another comment down here. So let's see if this merges into the overall one. So let's do, so we'll just call this DG. So this could be a good workflow. You use like DG, or you put your initial, whatever it is. Something to determine who's working in there, or if it's a date, and then at some point you merge it together, which, being that it's an open source tool, you could potentially automate that. I'm not sure what that would take, but I'm sure you can do that. All right, so we've got this one here. That's our original one. That's our working copy, and then what we'll do is we'll merge this one here, and then boom, we've got our new issue, and then looks like we've got our comment in there, so everything looks good. So pretty easy and works well. And then when you've got that done, you can overwrite your original report. And I kind of like that workflow personally, because when working with MEP or like Navisworks files, you'll have your individual NWCs, and then they'll be brought into an NWF file. But if you want more than one person working in an NWF file and you don't want them overwriting, what I would do is duplicate files, have them add their initials at the duplicated NWFs. Everything works fine because those NWFs are looking at the same NWCs, but then the host NWC is never touched. Or sorry, the host NWF is never touched, and it's used for just management, and you can always use it to duplicate future NWFs. If you're not familiar with our Navisworks, that probably didn't make a lot of sense. But essentially, we would have our host BCF report. We would create separate reports with our initials, and then through automation or through some like weekly task, someone would merge all the different stuff into the host one. But the host one itself would never be touched except for somebody that would be leading the effort. That's just an idea, one workflow, and I would love to hear from you guys if you're using this tool or using tools like it, and how you would work with it. So all right, so that's the BCF tool. Pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of stuff here. I think this is a really cool tool. It's free, and the link to the repo will be below. I've forked the repo, so I'm hoping to dig into it a little bit more. Maybe in the future we can talk about it. If you're on the Discord channel, we can definitely chat back and forth, so check that out if you're interested. But that's it for this tool. Check it out and let me know what you guys think about it. So all right, so let's just now take a look at shared views. I think this is really powerful because it's built into Revit. It doesn't require you to have BIM 360, and it's a free or another alternative free tool. The only downfall is that it's not it's not open source, and it's also not you can't export to BCF. So if you wanted to share this with somebody that doesn't have Revit, it would be difficult, at least for them to bring it into some UI like this into their tool. Now they can still see the viewer, so it's not the end of the world, and I think it's still a reasonable workflow, and that's why I like this tool. So to do this, we've got our shared views. You can see this one was created, and what we can do actually is add comments to it, and what it's going to do is open up the web version. You can't do any of it in the live model. You can do that stuff in the issues and if you're using BIM 360. But here you can see that it posts a version of that shared view. So whatever your view looks like is how it's going to be pushed up into the viewer. And so that's what it means by shared view. And then you can mark this up. So we can highlight certain things, you know, add an arrow or a cloud, text if we wanted to. And then we could save this. And then you can see it pop up here. And then what I like about this, which I didn't see in the, and it looks like it failed. That's, I have not seen that before. I wonder why that happened. What I like about this that I don't see in the, like the BCF tool is the resolved. So when you're finished with this markup, and so somebody's reviewed this, and so they can click on it, it can take you to that location. And then when they're done, they close the markup, and then they say resolved. And then they can move on to the next one. So there's that coordination issue that we saw before. You can say, all right, well, I looked at this is okay, because we've moved it down in the Revit model. Because I would imagine if you're using this, you would have Revit open, but depending on your workflow or who's viewing this stuff, it may be a PM that's not comfortable in Revit, and in that case, you know, they may be the ones marking this up. But if not, then they can resolve this. Whoever it is, you know, the workflow, you know, it depends on what you're doing. But here you can click resolved. But if you are the designer making these changes, you're probably going to be in Revit. And so if you do fix this, and actually I probably shouldn't try to change that, but if we fix this, what we can do is resolve it in here, so we can have a pretty integrated workflow. So this, you know, this is a nice panel. It's integrated in Revit, so it makes it. I like the process a lot. I think it makes it simple for the folks designing to get in there and make the changes, see the changes that others may be marking up in the viewer. And then if they need more information, they can click on it, and it will take them out to the viewer. And then they can click on that markup and take a look. And then back in here, when they make the change, they can click resolve. And then all of this information is synced back down to to the cloud or to the viewer, and then anything you do in the viewer is synced back down to the shared view add-in. So the reason you don't see any other comments is because the other one failed. So now you can see there's only one comment, and then we can show this, or actually show resolved. So we can show all of our resolved tickets, and then let's actually refresh this, because we should see our other ones. Yep, there it is. So, and then we can view in browser. We can copy the link, which is the link that you could share with other designers or a PM that needs to review this stuff. And then you can extend it. So there's a 31-day expiration date. If you need to extend it, you can extend that date. And then we can, you know, after we're done, we can remove it. So we can say, all right, this is good. We've reviewed everything. Now what we can do is delete that view. And so, and then here's our other shared view. You can see here, and this came from the same model. So that shared view, it depends on what is active in that view. So in this case, we've got all the architectural elements. And then here's our markups. So and we've got a whole list of markups over there. Markups are like comments. So again, if we're done, we can click resolve. So I actually love this. I think this is an amazing tool, and it makes a lot of sense. It's easy to use. It integrates in Revit. It makes it easier for the designer. It makes it easier for the PM. It just makes a lot of sense. So as a free tool, if you don't have BIM 360, I think this is a wonderful way to do issue tracking. With that said, it's not free. Well, it's free, but it's not open source, so you're not allowed to customize it. You can build your own stuff, I'm sure, using like the Forge APIs, but as the tool sits, it's not, it's not something that'll give you as much flexibility as like the BCF tool, and what you can and can't do with it. So that's that tool. I'd love to know if any of you guys are using this. A lot of my experience has been with BIM 360 issues. That made a lot of sense to me. It was really nice, and it integrated with Revit really well. And then we had people going out to BIM 360 and using that. So there was a lot of nice workflow. But I see like the shared views being a really good option if you don't have BIM 360, or using the BCF tool if you because it's an open source free tool, and it's the functionality is really smooth. So one other thing, and I haven't personally checked this, but I think it would be interesting. But let's save the model and then see if I can create a new shared view from a 2D. So I'm not sure how this would look. It's just this simple little 2D view of the bathroom. But the fact that it's taking forever to export makes me believe that it might be something else. I mean, it should. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's what I expected, but I wasn't sure. That was taking forever to export for some reason. So it's been a minute since I've messed with like the exports in BIM 360. But if I remember correctly, you could interact with like 2D elements, or like in your PDFs, or not your PDFs, but your views from Revit. You could interact with them, and you could click on the elements. Something I noticed with this viewer is that at least that I couldn't figure it out, but if you try to click on any elements, it doesn't let you. But there is a model browser, but you can see nothing is there, and there's also nothing in properties. So I don't know if there's an export option before you push it up there, but you can see there's just no way to select on elements. So unfortunately, just like here, we can't do that. But this is actually pretty slick. So you can highlight issues inside of your 2D view. So if we mark this up, you can highlight a problem, save that, and then now that's an issue that can be resolved. Let's jump back into Revit, and now we can see our issue there. And then if we need to do something, we can, if we want to, reply to this. and then resolve it. So cool. Yeah, I haven't checked the 2D functionality. I didn't know if it could or couldn't push that information up there. It looks like it can, so that's really cool. So this is I think a really awesome tool. The BCF tool, I support that more than this because it is an open source tool. People put a lot of work on that, in that tool, and it's supported by the community. I think we need more tools, more open formats like that, so that we can share between all of these, all of our different softwares. With that said, I think this is a really slick tool, the shared views. It's pretty smooth, and it integrates in Revit really well. Though BCF, being that it's open source, if it gets enough traction, I could see people investing the time to build that out to be much better than this free viewer that Autodesk has. I'm not sure, but it's an idea. So that's all I got for this video. I won't drag it on longer than I already have. But if you like it, feel free to like and comment and subscribe. And then definitely check out the Discord channel if you want to talk more BIM stuff. But I appreciate you guys watching and hanging on, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.